I am very excited because I'm joined by one of my good friends, Bobby Poitevent. Thank you, Bobby, for talking to me because I learned
No.
something very interesting about you. You kind of buried the lead here. You know, I love movies. You never told me that you were an extra in a huge movie right now. You just were very casual about it. Yeah, you said, "Wow, I want to see I, Tonya." I said, it was really good. And then you're like, oh, did you see me? So Bobby was actually an extra. You were a reporter in the movie. It's a humongous movie. It's an Oscar nominated film. Allison Janney has swept award season. So my first question for you is, how did you get this role? What was the process like?
Yeah, so I was not familiar with the story of I, Tonya until my mother had explained to me, my parents had explained to me what happened in the 90s. So I follow several different casting companies on Facebook, and I happened to see them post this role on Facebook. And acting's just always been an interest to me. Movies in general. I don't know if you can see behind me. I actually have several movie posters and stuff. It's such an interesting thing to me. And so I applied for this role, and I sent them a picture of me from my past station, WSFA, with holding a mic, and it had a mic flag of the station call letters on it. And I want to say like a couple days later, I got a phone call, and I'm pretty sure that's what kind of sent them over the edge. And so all they wanted to know are your stats, like your height, your weight, your age, and a few photos. And I really think that photo was what kind of sent them over the edge on having me as a reporter to be an extra.
Yeah, you didn't have to act because you and I met at a TV station. You are a reporter right now. So what did you have to do to prepare? I mean, that is your day job. So was there much preparation that even went into this? How did it work?
So this was before I was actually a reporter. This was last February is when filming took place for this particular scene. It was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was living in Montgomery at the time, so it was only a few hours away to hop over there on my off day. I think I actually requested that day off because I was so excited. So told us to dress in 90s clothes. Um, and so I love vintage clothing in general. So I had several hand-me-downs from some of my family members had older clothes. What decade they were from, I don't know. That I'm sure they could pass off as 90s. So what's funny is actually former coworkers, and I actually look at him as a mentor now. He's an anchor at WSFA, and we always talk about fashion and stuff like that. And so I sent a few photos of him or a few photos of myself, excuse me, in some of those clothes, and I was like, "Hey, is this 90s enough?" And so that was fun. And then I actually did a little research myself the night before, a couple days before, looking at 90s attire. And then I went so deep to look into such things as the O.J. Simpson trial, and looked at some of the photos of reporters, what they were looking, even to the even so to the Tonya Harding scandal, and looked at photos of reporters that were around her and Nancy Kerrigan, trying to find out what they looked like, or and what the style was, and necessarily what the style of a reporter back then was. Because I can imagine, and this, reporters don't make that high of wages, so they're not running around in Gucci attire in the latest fall, and so you kind of have to be a little more conservative on that. And so I did some research to find out my appropriate costume.
Wow, you went all in on this. You
I
are
did.
very committed. So, what was that day like in the filming process like? Because your scene was not super long, but you said you were there all day.
Pretty much all I want to say I got there around 10 in the morning. So it's about 4 hours from Montgomery, 3.5, 4 hours from Montgomery, Alabama, to get to Atlanta. And we were actually just on the outskirts of Atlanta. And when I got there, it was they set up in like a back behind some sort of like shopping center, where they had like the trailers and the wardrobe kind of trailers and stuff set up. And when you get there, they actually make you turn in yourself. They don't want any kind of leak of what's going on, so you had to turn your cell phone in. You had to show them the wardrobe that you brought. Actually, though, they took. I didn't wear anything that I brought except for a jacket. So they threw me in some corduroy pants. They gave me actually a shirt and a jacket, and then they gave me this floral tie. And they loved this. leather jacket that I wore, the suede jacket that I still own today. It's one of my favorite garments, and they loved it and they used it in the film, and that's kind of where the costume kind of came from. Once we were in wardrobe, we were shipped off to on a bus about 15 minutes away to this neighborhood. It's where Lavanya or Allison Janney's house is, the little greenhouse that's on the corner. It was shot in Atlanta, that house, which is also interesting too because um, if you look, if you can, if when you ever, Lauren, if you ever watch the movie again and you can look in like the rear view mirror, like a glass of the car, you can see the reflection of a house across. Very different than what Tonya grew up in. So which is interesting because the neighborhood itself is a very, um, I would say upper middle class kind of neighborhood. So the house, so it's just interesting where they actually filmed it, that the house that Tonya grew up in the film doesn't match the location where it's at. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that is really interesting because again, in the movie, they're they're not very wealthy or anything like that. That's putting it mildly. So when you were filming this, you told me after the fact that you didn't know what kind of movie this would be. You said, "Oh, it might be a Lifetime movie." Like you had no idea. So now it is a huge film. It's Oscar nominated. It's been nominated for so many things, critically acclaimed. How does that feel? And I mean, what were you even thinking that it was going to be at the time?
I really didn't know. And to resort back to when I first applied, I thought, to be honest, I thought I, Tanya, when I saw that, I thought it was like a Disney Channel show or something. And then of course, some people had explained to me what happened, and I started flashbacking to remembering that. I think it's amazing. I thought it was going to be like a Lifetime movie. I wasn't sure. Margot Robbie, I think at the time, was still kind of starting her career because she just came off of Suicide Squad, and Allison Janney, I didn't know who she was, but clearly she's a huge star. And I just think it's amazing. Like to me, it's an honor to be such a little part of such a phenomenal film that has received such a critical acclaim and such a high, just like as you mentioned earlier, that just has swept the award season. Both Margot Robbie, Allison Janney, Sebastian Stan even has who played her husband. That just it's just amazing. It's just an amazing feeling to be such a small part in such a great movie.
And on top of that, even more so. So the film is critically acclaimed. All the actors and actresses are, but Allison Janney has won absolutely everything. She has not lost. She's probably going to win the Oscar. If anybody's watching this, after the Oscars, she probably won it. Does that make it like even cooler because your scene was with her?
Yeah, it does. She so if you watch the film, so Allison Janney, she they did a lot for her to get her in that character, and it was so interesting being only a few feet away from her working, and we didn't have much interaction with her because it was a quick scene. Even though we did it multiple times, it was a quick scene. And so she kind of waved and talked to us a little bit off the porch and stuff, and she was very funny. She made jokes, if I remember correctly. So that was just so cool to be so close to such a big star, and to be in that scene. It's just I can't say anymore how incredible it is
Yeah.
to be such a little role, but yet be such in a big scheme of the success of that film.
So when you were going to see it, I told you that the scene was in there because I had seen it before you. But when you finally saw it, how did you feel? Because you didn't know if the scene was even going to be in it either after all that.
I didn't, and so I really appreciate you telling me because I have friends and family that want to see it, but they haven't watched it yet, and so I was like, oh, I need to know if the scene's in there, and then Lauren, you told me that it was in there, and I was like, yes, finally. So I actually went on a Valentine's date to see the movie, and so my date, we were sitting next to each other, and like I was looking, and so as soon as it came on, I was like elbowing it. Yeah, it's just it.
I mean, I would have looked for you if I knew, but you didn't tell me. So,
So it was so much fun, and to be honest, I got wrapped up into the film to where I kind of forgot that I was looking for a specific scene. So
yeah.
that's just says storytelling in itself.
So we'll end with this two-part question. Are you going to be rooting for this film at the Oscars?
100%. Now, if I actually get to watch the Oscars, because I'm not sure about my work schedule that day, is a different story. But 100%, they definitely have my back, my pull, 100% for this. Allison Janney, Margot Robbie, Sebastian Stan, 100%.
And I'll end with this. If you could describe the experience in one word, what would it be?
Memorable.
Awesome.
It's something you'll never.
Yeah.
You can be in a movie.
So incredible. So thank you so much for talking to me. And I mean, this is my claim to fame as well. You being an extra in this Oscar-nominated movie, because you know that I love the Oscars. So cool. I'm going to see it again. I'll look for you this time because, again, Bobby buried the lead, did not tell me that he was an extra in this movie.
I wasn't sure what to make out of it, and it's just something that I did last February. And next time, if I'm an extra, I'll be sure to let you know. It's just a great experience to do.
All right. Thanks for talking to B105, Bobby.
Thanks, Lauren. Bye.